So today's cardinal lesson, your social security statement, what you need to know. And so I'm holding this one for the examples, a few of them in my hands. You need to go to ssa.gov and you need to open an account. And you're going to need this when you get Social Security anyhow. But you go in there, you open up an account, and within the account, you print out your most recent up-to-date Social Security statement, or you download it as a PDF. And if you come to us for financial planning, we're going to need to see this statement. So I want to give it to Tom today, just so that Tom can tell you why we're shooting this video on Social Security today.
Yeah, we're doing this video because when you file for Social Security, it's one of the most important decisions you're going to make in retirement, and you need to get it right. And so we just want to walk through what you need to know, how to get the statement, what's important to go through. So let me bring up the show notes, and then we'll go through it, and then we'll get into the examples here in a little bit. You can find these show notes at the link below our video. They're also on our website at cardinalguide.com. We have the board as always, and then throughout the show notes we have the various statements. Again, these are supported in the examples we're going to go through. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now, but if you want to really, I suggest that you go to ssa.gov, go get your own statement and look at it while you're watching the video if you want to, because then you can relay all the numbers back to your own situation as opposed to these examples we're going through. So again, but these are what the statements look like. So let me turn it back to Hans and we'll get going here.
Yeah, by the way, we have a lot of clients in their 80s and 90s, and we serve a lot of people who are the parents of our clients that are just coming into us. And I can tell you, when you spend time with people in their 80s and 90s, they start forgetting a lot about their finances. But if there's one thing they know, is how much their Social Security check is and when it comes in and what bank account it goes into. And so if this Social Security stuff is not that important to you now, just rest assured, if you think about your 85-year-old self, it's going to be important to you one day, or your spouse. So the first point we want to make is that each month you wait to file. So the earliest you can file is 62. The latest you can file is 70. But each month between 62 and 70 presents another opportunity to file. So the amount you get from Social Security goes up a little bit every month you wait. I want to bring Tom on. I want Tom to just make some comments on that first point.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of people miss. When you go and get your statement on Social Security, it doesn't show you month by month. It shows you at various points on there. And a lot of people think you have to wait to that age to get that increased amount. But in reality, it's going up every month. It increases. There's actually another spot on Social Security's website where you can plug in a starting date and supposedly it calculates it, but I've seen them miscalculate it often. And so again, just know every month you wait between 62 all the way till 70, that check is growing by a little bit every month.
Okay, so this statement will tell you if you've met this criteria, but you need at least 10 years of work. And that 10 years of work will have 40 credits for it. And it's right here on the statement. And for most people, this isn't a problem. But for somebody like Helen down in the example, she just worked a little bit when she was in her 20s and when she was in college. But she met the minimum. She was a little surprised that she did. But, an example where you need this 10 years of work, we have another MD client that is come from another country, and he moved here when he was about 30, and he's got plenty of work, but his wife has never worked in the United States, so she doesn't have any earnings history, but she's able to come in under his spousal deal. So Tom?
Yeah, I think this is an important thing. This is sort of like your key into Social Security. It's also for Medicare, right? You need to have 40 quarters of paid in to the system to be able to qualify for any benefits. Like Hans mentioned, this isn't something that becomes a problem in most situations. A lot of times you'll see it if a spouse stayed home and raised the kids, for example. But if we have people immigrating to the United States later in life, this could become a problem, right? Do we have enough working history? And this could really impact your retirement decision. Let's say you moved here in your mid 50s you don't quite have the 40 quarters or the 10 years, you probably want to keep working to accrue those years so you can actually claim on these benefits. So again, um, not a huge issue for most people, but if you're on the borderline, you need to know that, and that's just the rules of how you qualify for any benefits from Social Security or Medicare as well.
So the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, happens each year. So it gets announced sometime in the summer, early fall, and then it takes effect in January. And like these numbers that are down here off of these statements, the numbers in the future will actually be larger than what's shown because there will be a few cost of living adjustments. Tom?
Yeah, and I think this is another one that people get confused about too. And this was really more coming up a lot more a couple of years ago when inflation was really high and these COLA numbers were pretty large. People were saying, hey, I need to go file for Social Security so I can get this COLA, which is not true, right? I mean, if you are of an age that you could file for Social Security benefits, your benefit will increase with the COLA, whether you file for benefits or you don't. And so even if you haven't filed yet, that still increases your future benefit. And then once you start receiving benefits, it's a nice thing to have where that income is increasing with the idea that it helps offset some of the cost of inflation. Now, if your Social Security isn't enough to cover all of your income needs, which for most people it's not, you'll need to have other sources of income, other investments to help offset that fully, but having that portion of your income keep up with inflation is really nice and is helpful once you get into retirement.
Okay, the age you claim will affect your surviving spouse benefit. Tom?
Yeah, and so this is, and we'll get this into the example on the bottom left of the board with the couple. This is a really important thing that I don't want you to miss because I see people come in who have made up their mind when they're wanting to file. Maybe their family history, they don't live that long. Their parents both died, maybe in their mid 70s. Whatever the situation is, they're convinced they're not going to live long enough to benefit by waiting to take Social Security. So they're going to file it as soon as they can. But what they miss, again, is how that impacts the spouse, right? If you're married, specifically their survivor benefits. So when the first spouse passes away, the higher check will continue for that surviving spouse and the lower check will stop. And so if I have a couple here, let's say the husband, in this example is the MD, the wife stayed home for most of the years raising the kids, and he's thinking of taking it soon because he's convinced he's not going to live long enough to see the benefit of delaying it. But his wife, on the other hand, he's convinced she's going to live into her 90s. Well, if that's the case, we really need to be thoughtful about when he files it, and he might not receive that benefit. He might not live long enough to realize the benefit of delaying the check. But because he's delayed it, now his spouse, once he passes, gets that higher check for the rest of her life. And so we just really want you to be considering, if you're married, how that impacts both of your lives, not just your life. And it's a really big area that a lot of people miss.
Now, feeding off that same point, if you're divorced, you may be able to claim on your ex-spouse. Tom?
Yeah, and so this gets a little bit confusing, and it's a little bit harder depending on the relationship you have with your ex to actually get the numbers. Because, like, hey, you call them up, so what is the benefit you get from Social Security? They say, I'm not going to give you that. What do you need to know that for? Having said all that, what you're eligible for as an ex-spouse is you could claim a spousal benefit. I'll go over the sort of caveats in here in a second, but you could claim spousal benefits based off your ex, which could really be beneficial. So how do you do that? What do you need to have satisfied to be able to claim off your ex-spouse? One, your marriage needs to have lasted at least 10 years. So you need to be married for at least 10 years. You need to not have been remarried before the age of 60. So if, say, you get divorced in your 50s, you get remarried at 58, and then you're still married to that second spouse, you can't claim benefits on the first spouse. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, in the same example, you're married for a long time, you get divorced in your 50s, you get remarried, and that second marriage ends by divorce. So now you've gotten divorced twice. Once you divorce that second time, now you actually can go back and refile based off that first spouse's benefit. So again, it gets a little bit complicated. If you're in the situation where you have a divorced spouse or you're divorced yourself, and you want to know what you're eligible for, give us a call. We can walk you through that. I do want to point out that even though you're eligible for some benefits based off the spouse, it's not always going to be the best deal because you're only going to get one check, right? You're either going to get your check or the spousal benefit. You can't get both at the same time. And the Social Security is just going to give you the higher of the two checks. And so if you have any working history, that's probably going to be your own check, because what you're eligible from a spouse or an ex-spouse is half of the benefit of the full retirement age benefit of the other spouse, of your ex-spouse. And so again, if your own benefit is higher than that, doesn't really matter. Again, if your ex-spouse has since passed, again, I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but now you can do some other things, as filing restricted applications, claiming their full benefit. There's stuff there. So if you're in that situation and you have some questions, just give us a call.
Sure. Now, this concept of full retirement age, or the acronym is FRA. So that was 65 for the most years. And then back in the 80s, it was that long, 40 years ago, they changed the Social Security system and they fortified the money, and they changed it from 65 to 67, but they took 40 years to get it implemented. Okay, I mean, it's just slowly, piece by piece, and it's still in the process of being implemented. So people born in 1958, the full retirement age is 66 and 8 months. People born in 1959, it's 66 and 10 months. People born in 1960 and after, it is the full age 67. So those folks are going to get their full benefit with Social Security when they're at full retirement age. The same with you. So you need to know where you fit. And again, if you look at the statement, it gives you what your full retirement age is, and it gives you the amount that you're able to collect if you wait till full retirement age. There's some other ramifications of full retirement age. Tom?
Yep. And so it is important to know when your full retirement age is. And like Hans had mentioned, it's right there on your statement. So if you don't know, go get your Social Security statement, because that's a good thing to have anyways. And it was listed right on the statement showing you what your full retirement age is. That is essentially your full benefit based off all the formulas they use to calculate Social Security. If you take it sooner than that age, they reduce it. If you take it later, it gets increased with what's just called delayed retirement credits. Again, there are other points. This next bullet point, I'll save that because we're gonna talk about here in a second. But that it becomes important for some other reasons too. And so you need to know what that is. You need to know what that benefit is. The other thing that is, and I mentioned this on the spousal benefit, that is the number that they're going to base the half benefit off of. So in the example, I'm going to jump forward a little bit. In Harry and Helen, Harry's full retirement age benefit is 66 and 8 months. The spousal benefit for Helen is half of that number, even if Harry delays all the way till 70. Because again, a lot of people think, well, if I wait till 70, I'll get the higher check, and then my spouse will get half of my higher check. That's not how that works. So the spouse is only eligible for half of the full retirement age benefit, not the age 70 benefit, for example. So again, you need to know that it's important for you, but it's also could be important for your spouse as well.
Okay. Now, if you claim before your full retirement age and you still work, even part-time, or some people think they're just, oh, I'm going to take the benefit now, that'll be extra money. But if you're still working, you have a cap on what you can earn from a job. It's $23,400 a year in 2025. That's the most you can earn from a job, not from your investments and pension and other things. If you're collecting Social Security before full retirement age, if you get over that amount, you got to give some of this benefit back. Tom?
Yeah, this is another one where we see a lot of mistakes happen. Um, People get to 62, they know they can file for Social Security at age 62. That's the earliest you could file. Um, and maybe they've convinced themselves Social Security is going to run out of money, or whatever the situation is. I'm not going to live long enough. I need to take it what I can get. I mean, people come in with all sorts of crazy ideas. If you're still working, that could be really a poor decision, because if you earn above that threshold, again, 23,400, they're going to withhold your Social Security check. So every $2 you earn above that number, they withhold $1 worth of benefits. I don't want to get into the math on that today, but if you earn a reasonable income, you could file for Social Security and not get a check, and now you've permanently reduced your check for the rest of your life. So again, one of the first questions I ask someone who comes in who's wanting to file, and it's before their full retirement age, the first question I ask, are you still working? If they're still working, how much are you making? And if they're making too much, the very quick answer is no, you should not file. You should wait until you either retire or you get to full retirement age, because that earnings threshold, that 23,000 number, that goes away at full retirement age. So again, I see this get mistaken a lot as well, is once you hit that age, and again, whatever your age is based off that statement, let's just say it is 66 and 8 months. Once you get there, you can earn as much as you want. It doesn't matter anymore, and you can file for your benefits, and they don't withhold anything. So again, that full retirement age becomes important, especially if you're still working, of when you might consider filing for Social Security.
Okay. Some benefits are taxed. We have other shows on that, but that's a factor in your claiming decision. If you're going to do a bunch of Roth conversions and run your other income or other taxable income up, that's another advantage to delaying, is to get all that out of the way before you take your higher check, and then maybe you end the Roth conversions and you're going to get to keep more of your check. And then the other point I just wanted to finish with is there's benefits on these statements for family members. We have a few clients that have a special needs child that's 30 or more and living with them, and there's a way, it's disabled, there's a way to collect a benefit based on that child, but the parent who's taken care of needs to file for their own Social Security. And we had an executive that had numbers like Harry, that actually filed for his Social Security before he otherwise would have, because it was the only way to get that benefit for the child on Social Security, the disabled child. So there's benefits that come. We also have some clients that still have a high school age kid at home while they're eligible for Social Security, and through age 18 or the senior in high school, and graduation, they can collect an extra benefit on children, but they have to file. So, those are the points that we're making. We want to move on to the examples. And so we got one example here in the lower left, which is somebody that we're going to recommend that they delay, or we have recommended that they delay to age 70. And then we have an example here on the right of a single fella, Cal, who doesn't have a surviving spouse, or he's not married. So there's no benefit for somebody to live on and collect a benefit. Anyhow, recommendation on Cal is that he file for benefits immediately at 64 and 5 months. So let's go through Harry and Helen's situation, and their Social Security statements are in the show notes. Harry's is and Helen's is, and you're going to just show you the numbers. And Harry is right at 66 and 8 months. So he could file for his Social Security right now for $38.84. And even though he's still working, he could collect that. He'd have to pay taxes on it, but he could collect that and make as much as he wants from the job. So that's certainly one option, is take his Social Security now. Then it shows on the statement, I pulled these numbers right off the statement. It shows if he waited till he's 68, it's $41.77. 69, it's $45.23 a month. If he waits till 70, it's $5,022. And so we have a lot of people that look at these numbers. It just doesn't sound like that much. I got to wait a year and 4 months, and I only get an extra $300 a month. And then they go into the calculator and they say, I'm just taking it now. And it's really fine if that's what they want to do. The break-even point is usually they need to live to about 78, 79, or 80 if you're only looking at their benefit. If they die sooner than that, they would have been better off taking it at the earlier date. If they live beyond that, they would have been better off by waiting and taking the higher benefit. So in In Harry's case, we're recommending that he wait till 70. Yeah, part of that is because he can. He has other investments that he can live off of, and he's still working. But when you consider Helen, this becomes pretty much a no-brainer, because when Helen has a very low benefit, so she's going to be on the spousal benefit. She's going to get 50% of Harry's check. But more importantly, if Harry dies first, and then Helen is forced to live off of whatever Harry's Social Security check is for the rest of her life, her check is going to stop. So in their case, we want to wait as long as we can, because one of them is probably going to live past 78 or 79. It may not be both of them, and it may not be Harry, but it by waiting till age 70, they're going to be assured that the survivor of the two of them is going to have the largest check possible. And to go back to my earlier comment, is that people in their 80s and 90s, and I tell this to most clients, the Social Security check is one piece of their financial planning that they really understand in their 80s or 90s, because it's coming every month. They know what bank it's going in, they know what day it's coming in, and they generally know what the amount is. So if we get into Harry and Helen, and we're looking at the whole thing, Helen worked some in her 20s before she had kids, and she worked summers in college and during college, and but she met the 10-year deal. But she doesn't have a very large check because she doesn't have a real strong work history, because she was basically taking care of the kids and the household, and Harry's been the one making the money. And so Harry's delaying, when Helen gets to 66 and 10 months, she's going to file for her $850 a month. And it's for her, that's about 2 years from now. And she's going to collect that $850 a month, and Harry's going to be about 69 at the time. And then Harry's still going to delay till 70, and she's going to collect the $850 a month. And then when Harry files at 70, she's going to be about 68 and a half, 69, going on 69. She then is going to get the spousal benefit on Harry, which is half of his full retirement benefit, which is about $1,900 a month. So between the two of them, when Harry's probably retired by then, they're going to have over $80,000 a year in Social Security income. So I'm going to ask Tom to make any comments that he wants about their situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's important to know with all of these, right? We're not giving blanket advice for everybody, right? It is specific to your situation. So don't take this as you should do this or you should do this other one when we go over the second example. But for Harry and Helen, right? Harry's still working. They don't need the income. They have other resources that if they did, they could live off of that. And it just makes a lot of sense to delay this check, get the higher check possible. Again, a lot for just the benefit of Helen, right? There's a pretty good chance Helen could live much longer, right? And potentially be claiming that higher benefit for the rest of her life if Harry were to have an early death. And so delaying the check isn't just looking at Harry, it's looking at the couple, is setting things up in a way that gives them a nice check. You think about it, $84,000 in retirement coming in from Social Security without touching their other investments, that serves as a nice base level of income for them to build from there, right? Because they probably need a little bit more than that to do the stuff they want. But it gives them a nice, really high floor of income that's guaranteed, again, from the federal government. So for their situation, and they were on board, right? They saw the benefit of this, that delaying just made a lot of sense for them.
Okay, so let's take a look at Cal. So Cal is single. He's, ready to retire. He's had it with work. He already picked a date, and he had run the numbers on his Social Security. He had gotten his statement, looked at it, and he says, oh, okay. So he's listened to us. He's a regular viewer, and he knew that we're in favor of delaying. So he just kind of randomly picked, well, I'll wait till I'm 66. And then he just picked a date because I'm going to get a little more at 66 than I will at 65 and 4 months or whatever, or 64 and 4 months. So anyhow, he hadn't really thought about his cash flows. And after retirement, he's got money in a 401k, so I'll just pull it out of there to supplement. But what he hadn't really thought about is what's going to happen at 75 or 80 when he's got this Social Security check coming in. Plus, he's been living out of this other money, and now the other money is pretty much gone. He's going to be one of these older people living with a diminished Social Security check and no other savings. Not a very pretty picture. So he kind of woke up to that, and he also, his desired spend, he came to us for financial planning. His desired spend was $5,000 a month. He says, if I can have $5,000 a month after taxes, then, because that needs to be spendable money, I want to live off of that, 60 grand a year net. And then we also pointed out to him, he's got an inflation problem because you can set that up now. We can set that up for you and show it to you for the rest of your life. But what's that going to be worth when you're 75? Now we've got all the money committed to creating the income, and $5,000 a month, you may need 6,500 to do the same $5,000. So we had a lot of discussions about that. And what we arrived on for Cal is he's going to retire. He's going to take his Social Security immediately, which is actually immediately. These are a little bit old numbers. It's going to be $2,900 a month that he's going to get the month after he retires. So we've got $2,100 a month to make up for, but we still got to pay taxes. And so we needed $5,300 a month, $5,400 a month to pay about $300 a month in taxes. What we were able to show Cal is if he has a $2,900 a month Social Security check and a $2,300 withdrawal from his IRA, and it's $5,300 a month, he's not going to pay a lot in federal tax or state tax. Very, very little. And we showed him that on a tax return. So anyhow, he took it early. Then what he's doing is he's taken about 130 grand of his 401k, and that is enough to produce I think it's $1,400 a month for 5 years. And then beginning the 6th year, he's got an annuity that comes in that'll pay him that amount for life. And it's only taking up about 30% of his savings. So that's all in the financial plan that we put together for him. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, it was 2,400 a month of the additional income, so instead of 14, so a little bit more than what you said. But yeah, I mean, the whole point being is he came in, and we do talk a lot on this channel about delaying Social Security, the benefits of doing so. His situation, it didn't make sense to delay. He needed the cash now, right? It would have put too much of a strain on his investments to delay Social Security. So we recommended he go ahead and file now. We don't have a spouse we need to worry about from a spousal benefit standpoint, so that removes one of the considerations. And then we can use annuities or investments, however we want to set up the other income, to supplement his Social Security to get him to the income that he needs to live. And so again, everyone's situation is different. Everyone is specific to their sort of fact pattern, what their situation is, how much they have saved up, what is their income needs. It all factors in here. And it is very specific to you as opposed to just a blanket advice. So even though oftentimes we are talking about people recommending delaying till 70, not always, right? This is a great example of where someone really did need to go ahead and file right as they retire just to get some cash flow coming in so they could live and enjoy retirement.
Okay, so we did comprehensive financial planning for both of these folks. And so today, we've been talking about Social Security. That's the topic. Both of these people purchased long-term care insurance. This couple, they did it with their assets and some of their IRA assets, which we've talked about on other shows. Cal bought a recovery care or a short-term care policy, and he's paying for that out of the $5,000 a month. It's not very expensive. The 401k and IRA is the place where we create the bridge. I mean, in other words, we can set up a bridge to get Cal from 65 to 70 if he was going to delay, but he didn't delay. Harry, we didn't need to set up a bridge for him because he's still working, or for the couple. But if he were retired, we would have to figure out some way to replace this 3884. And we're going to do that out of withdrawals from the IRA money that are going to be extra big until the Social Security check starts. Income, well, that's the whole subject that we're creating. Is we're, in retirement planning, we're creating a future income for the people, or we're using their money to do it. And the Social Security check is the foundation of that income. There wasn't much on estate planning today, and taxes are a huge part of this whole scenario. Like in Cal's case, he was just stunned that he's only going to pay about $300 a month, $250 a month in federal and state income taxes if he sets his income at a $2,900 Social Security check a month and a $2,400 withdrawal from his IRA. That's all the taxes he's going to pay. So I want to bring Tom back on. I'm Hans Scheil.
And I'm Tom Griffith.
And we thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.